welcome to our continuing coverage of Ireland for Colonizer's World Tour. I am Dr. Erin.
I'm Dr. Kristen.
We are up with our second video for this week, which is our documentary where we look at a documentary or a film from the area we are looking at. So we have a fictional feature film, as we would say in Ireland, called called Herself, which is a 2020-2021 film that is available on Prime Video for free. Thanks, Amazon. It was produced by Amazon Studios, so then they won't charge you for it, which was nice. It's a film by a woman named Phyllida Lloyd, but also a story by Claire Dunn, who is she wrote the story, she co-directed it, and she is the lead actor in it as well. So fair dues, Claire, for, being a triple threat there. So it is the story. We meet early on a woman named Sandra and her two girls in Dublin, and the whole movie is about Sandra and her fight to keep her children away from her abusive partner Gary, to keep herself away from her abusive partner Gary, and to establish a home for the girls. And we talked a little bit about in our 101 video, if you saw, this movie really gets into the housing crisis right now in Ireland, which is massive. And so that's a huge framework for this is early into the film, she is assaulted by Gary. She finally is able to leave him, and she gets placed in the Dublin Airport Hilton Hotel, which Kristen and I stay at all the time. But at the back of the hotel, they have housing set aside, social housing for families in need, including women who are escaping abusive partners. And so Sandra and her girls live in a hotel room, and she is trying to get them in a more stable situation, closer to the school that they're at. She's working 2 jobs. We get all sorts of stories. And eventually what happens is Sandra gets the idea that being 643rd on the list for a house in Dublin, from Dublin City Council, is going to take too long. And so she starts researching building your own house. She finds a guy on YouTube that's like, hey, for 35,000 euro, you can build your own house. And she starts to put the pieces together on why this would be a great solution for her and her daughters. And eventually she gets the help of her, the woman whose house she cleans, Dr. O'Toole, who's a lovely woman, and the help of Ado, who's a builder and contractor. And then she brings together this like ragtag bunch of folks to build a house. And that's the guts of the story, is this journey for her, and the struggles with her ongoing relationship with Gary, and all kinds of things happen. But that's the guts of the story. It's about survival and resilience and community and hope and help and trauma, and all of those things in a delightfully Irish setting that does not have any fiddle-dee-dee music except for 3 lines of whiskey in the jar at the end of the film. So I loved it because it was beautifully Irish and not in a stereotypical way. But Dr. Kristen, what would you like to talk about?
I loved it because it was beautifully Irish in that things were happy and terrible all at once, which is one of the most Irish sentiments that I can articulate.
Oh, you guys, we watched this film together, and I won't spoil anything for you at all, but we were like, is this movie going to be Irish or not? And we got towards the end and we were like, oh, Irish. Yeah,
Irish. It's going to be Irish.
It's going to be 100% Irish through and through, in that it is both beautiful and devastating.
I mean, it's Irish in the fact that the system is not ever interested in innovation. Like, the logic that she... Like, I love this place, but how I explain it to people is that it is allergic to efficiency.
Oh my God.
It just doesn't... The logic that she presents as to why she should get money from the council to build this house is rock solid.
Yeah, but that's not how systems work. Like, even outside of
Not how-
Ireland, like, you couldn't go to a housing authority in the United States and say, if you loan me the money to build a house, it will save you money in social welfare. Like, lol.
But in the United States, there are a couple more nonprofits that think like that.
A few.
Whereas in Ireland, there are, to my knowledge, none.
It's like the housing authority or Ado the builder. Like
these are your choices.
These are your choices.
There is no Habitat for Humanity in Ireland, and no homeworks or and that the nonprofit world in the Republic is so stymied by the incredible bureaucracy. Like, I mean, even though Ireland's been its own country for a long time, they learned bureaucracy from the Brits, and man, have they taken it and then added the whole attitude of, "Oh, sure, it'll be grand."
Like, they sprinkled a little Irish philosophy on the top there.
Yeah, if I could just give a quick example of the differences between British admin and Irish admin, that will help you understand why this movie just made me feel warm and fuzzy inside. When my husband was going to get his green card, we needed a police report from every address he had lived at, that he was in fact not, a miscreant.
Yeah.
So John's lived all over the show, including he grew up in Northern Ireland, he lived and worked in the Republic, so he needed a police certificate from both of those places. The way to get a British police certificate was you filled out this online form. It was tracked mail. It came with like an official seal. John called a police station, a Garda station in Dublin, and said, "I think I need this." And they said, "Okay." They took his details. They said, "Oh, we'll get back to you." About 3 weeks later, in the mail, an 8.5 by 11 sheet of paper was folded 4 times and shoved into a 4x6 envelope. It was photocopied sideways, and that was his police report. That is the best encapsulation I have for you of how the systems work.
It's painfully Irish, as we would say.
And so poor Sandra is facing the sideways photocopied system.
Yeah.
Where there's not a lot of questions. There's not a lot of answers to a lot of questions, because generally, as a rule, you don't ask a lot of questions in Irish culture. You're not, curious people tend to kind of get maligned often. And she is fundamentally curious.
Yeah.
And what I really love is that it's not, there's always more people like you than you think, even in Ireland. And she finds Ado and she wears him down. And for anyone who watched Game of Thrones, this is our beloved Varys from Game of Thrones with hair and a better part, actually. Like, he got to really showcase his Varysness.
Yeah, I love him. The actor's name is Conleth Hill, and he's from a dear beloved town that we love, Ballycastle in Antrim in Northern Ireland. And he's way, way better than Varys was given room to work with.
Absolutely.
Sometimes he was great as Varys, but it was a limiting role, and I loved the humanity of Ado in this, and you couldn't find a better person than Conleth Hill for it.
No, it was perfect. It was absolutely perfect.
Yeah.
And so I loved that. I loved fundamentally, if you talk to some of our friends and they'll say like what really marks being Irish, they will end up talking about hospitality and how it's important to make home for other people. And on the 19th of March here on the channel will premiere depending on when you watch this, a Welcome to My World with our favorite St. Patrick expert, Dr. Therese Cullen. And she talks about the importance of home and hospitality as being fundamental to Ireland back to the days of St. Patrick. And so while Sandra is building a house for her family, she is creating home for the people that are building the house alongside with her.
Yeah.
And that was also so peak. Like, an Irish mummy is a specific stereotype because they just mother every living creature within their grasp.
Yeah.
And we have so many friends that are Irish mummies who don't have children yet.
Yeah. Oh, for sure.
like our friend Brittany is an Irish mummy and she has doggos. But that's who Sandra is. Yeah. Just this mothering constant, like, oh, I'm going to make sure that you have a role and you have a role and you have, like, it's just, yeah. In all of the ways it's Irish, in both complete beauty and complete like, oh, Christ the night. Can you all not just like catch yourself on and do something progressive? It's just a really, really good slice. And it really, really represents well how the system does not know how to handle domestic violence. It does not know how to handle intimate partner violence. Yeah. The system that was built to handle it is probably capable of handling a fourth of the cases that the councils get. There is a lot of reasons why intimate partner violence is very high on the island. Some of them are the stereotypes that you think of, and some of them are ones that, reasons you wouldn't think of. Mm. But the system has never been built to equip it. Never been built to support the amount of survivors that they have. Hotels are not where people should live. And especially not if they have to carry everything up 7 flights of stairs because they're not allowed to use the elevator. Which makes me, I know it's not actually the Dublin, like, airport Hilton, like, really, but I want to go to them and be like, they can use the elevator as long as I am here. Like, please don't make them go up the stairs. It highlights that. As Aaron said, it highlights the housing crisis, which, if you would like to know more about, simply Google Dublin housing. And
oh, it's a problem.
It's a real problem. So yeah, that's why I loved it, is that it is, like I said in the video before, if they'd gone to Tesco 2 or 3 times.
Yeah,
maybe made a pennies joke. That's it. I would have been.
I know.
I would have been at home.
She does have a Tesco bag at one stage that she stuffs her stuff in, and I was like, every little helps, which is Tesco's motto. I loved it so much. Yeah. So for me, the 2 biggest things that came out of it was the discussion that they had around being a victim and survivor of intimate partner violence and what that looks like. Her relationship, Sandra's relationship with Gary, with Gary's family, was really empathetically done.
Oh my gosh, his mother.
Oh my God, his mother. And the scene where, Sandra eventually ends up in a form of court arbitration over custody for the children because she lied on a housing form that she didn't have any other housing options available. She lied because, God forbid, if something happened to the house that she was having all these lovely people build, she didn't want to get off the housing list. But Gary decides to be vindictive and go for the jugular because he's a dick. But there's a great...
He has control issues.
He has a little control issues. There's a great monologue that Sandra has where she actually finally, I think for the first time in her life, tells the truth about what life was like with Gary. Yeah. And she looks at the judge and she, the judge is like, what would you like to say? And she's like, well, I would like to say, ask better questions. Mm-hmm. You're bringing me in here and reprimanding me for lying on a form and asking me why I did it. You're asking me why I never left my abusive relationship. Why? She said, none of you never ask him why he didn't stop. And Kristen and I watched this together and we were just like, phew. So that the relationship and how they dealt with it and how hard it is for victims and survivors to be safe, to get justice, to get support, is such an important understanding for why so many people don't come forward. And we get into a little bit of that with Gary's mom, Sandra's mother-in-law at the end. And the other thing that was just the most beautifully Irish thing to me that made me so homesick, it made me literal sick to my stomach, was the building of the house with this group of humans. And the movie was so just naturally inclusive. And we always want to highlight when films do that because the stereotype of Ireland is just a lot of white, ginger-haired people. But there's, diverse humans live everywhere, and diverse Irish people live in Ireland. And so there's Ado and his son who has Down syndrome, Francis, who's just the best. The best, Francis. And then all the people that the woman she works with at the bar, she eventually gets to help her out. And then she's like, we need more people to build this house. And so she brings all the people that she squats with in Rathmines, which is not a nice place to squat. But there's, you know, a Scandinavian fellow, Darius, or Eastern European, we're not sure. There's a woman from Sligo who's originally from Cameroon. There's Tomo, who's just like this lost little Dublin boy, and he's always in his Dublin GAA top, which was so authentic. And his line where he's trying to get Sandra to have a can of beer to celebrate, and he goes, "It's a bag of cans, boss, not a bag of cans. I was dead. Like, Tomo killed me." But he, like, at the end, he gets around to, like, no one has ever believed in me. Like, everyone always thought I was a waster, and you gave me something to, like, you gave me this hope. And as they're all meeting at the end of the build of this house, Ado brings up this Irish word, Michal, which he says means, like, when you get together to help someone else and are helped in return. And he was like, I'm reminded of this old Irish word. And I just got goosebumps talking about it again, because it was just what they all got something out of this coming together. And that's what real community is. And that's what belonging is. And that's what home is. And that's what humans are capable of if they are not stopped by institutions and policies and red tape. And I mean, that it was just such a beautifully human story that was so, so hopeful. And that was the thing that, like, I will think about those scenes for a long, 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 long time. And that's the Ireland you and I, like, lived in and knew and loved, that is so much about home and community and belonging. And that's what herself is fundamentally about at the end. Yeah.
Overall, we would beg you to watch this,
like,
essentially.
Honestly, like, I could grab you and, like, watch the movie.
Watch the movie. If you are an educator looking for movies for International Women's Month, this is a excellent one to do. I actually just talked to our dear friend and colleague Cheryl Westleong, and she's going to add it to a curriculum that she's doing for International Women's Month.
For sure.
Because it's an incredible encapsulation of a population we actually never talk about, which is non-leprechaun Irish people. So let's give it a run. Like we said, it's on Amazon. It is beautifully acted, beautifully told, and a quiet, subtle movie, which honestly, Ireland at its best is quiet and subtle and warm. And that's what this place is. So that's all I got for now. Yourself?
No, chef's kiss, I'm done. I'm so over the moon at this discussion.
So if you loved it as much as we did, hit that thumbs up button. The algorithm loves it, which means we have to too. If you would love to continue to explore the world with us and have conversations about the various pockets of this planet you may not know about, hit that subscribe button. We do this Colonizer's World Tour 6 months of the year with a lot of different conversations. Next up is going to be Iceland. And this is going to be the flip side. Like, this one, we didn't really know. We knew a lot going in and had very few Jeopardy fun facts. We're going opposite.
Oh boy.
Next week, we know nothing going in except that Greenland is full of ice, and Iceland is very nice from the Mighty Ducks 2. And we're going to have a lot of Jeopardy fun facts.
Oh my gosh.
So definitely join us for Iceland. If we see you before then, amazing. If not, we will see you for the next stop on Colonizer's World Tour, Book 2, which is the great country of Iceland. Until then, guys, take care.